Dear Lord, I thank you so much for these ladies. I pray that you would be with me now, and I ask that you would give me the right words to say. I pray that you would help me to have the right way to say them. And I ask that you would help answer some questions, maybe solve some problems, and give some ladies some hope with children as they listen today. Just use me, and Holy Spirit, please let your leading, let me be sensitive to your leading. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay, you've got me today for this session. So now I'm speaking on children, and my husband and I just finished a 6-week series on child rearing. So I thought, do I have anything left to say? But I don't think we talked about this. We probably covered some of the little issues in it. But they say that your mind begins to work the moment you're born. And it doesn't stop until you get up to make a speech. So I'm hoping this isn't true for me, but sometimes it is. You've heard of the 3 R's in schools. Yesterday, it used to be reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? Okay. Today in our schools, it's rioting, rebellion, restlessness. Tomorrow, it's going to be regret, rot, and ruin. And what we need is respect, religion, responsibility. Today, I want to talk just a little bit about respect. I'm so amazed at how disrespectful children are today towards any authority, but especially towards their parents. And I'm even more amazed that it seems that most parents don't even notice how disrespectful their children are to them. But you're going to help me teach this lesson because I'm just tired and I just can't think of enough to say. But what I want to do is I want to ask you to sit right now and think of someone you highly respect. Okay, just sit and think. Think of someone you respect. And I want you to think, what is it about them that causes me... Now, everyone will have a different reason you respect the person you're thinking of. But there is a reason. There's a main reason that you respect this person. Please just sit and think. Now, who is it that I respect, and what is the main reason? What is it about them that causes me to respect them? Okay, raise your hand if you have someone in your mind. You could think of someone. Okay. Tiffany, could you tell me who it is and what it is that you respect about them? Pardon me? Okay, so they have a close walk with the Lord, and so you respect that about them. What about... Okay, so that probably causes them to be a certain type of person. Can you think of a character trait about that person that because of their close walk with God they have? Okay, you think. Who else has had someone? Yes, right here. Oh, they're a consistent person. You could depend on them. They're consistent. Okay, someone else tell me something. Yes, right here. They're kind. Yes, they're very kind. Good, you're giving the right answers. That's good. Mrs. Moffat. Friendly. Okay. Someone else. Yes. Polite. They have good manners. Yes. She never raises her voice. Okay. She's not like me. She doesn't yell across the parking lot. Loyal. Someone who's loyal. Yes. They have propriety in their life. Stacy. Gracious. Did anyone think of someone who you admire them because they have strength? They're strong? Oh, yeah, a lot of you had your hands up. How about someone they are what they appear to be? They're real. Do you admire people? That's always admirable. Someone who has a lot of self-control, that you admire that in a person. Is there anything we haven't mentioned that maybe... there's a few more. Stacy. They're balanced. Yes, that's very admirable. Okay, so you've taught the lesson. Now we're going to apply it to your life. There's really three areas here that I think cause us to have respect for someone. The first one is honest. They're real. They are who they appear to be. When they speak, you know they mean what they say. And if we want to take that and apply it to our child rearing, our children will respect us for that. The other thing was strength, self-control. We admire people that have a purpose in life, and they have a plan for their life. They carry through regardless of what it costs them. That's the people we admire. They have a standard, and they do not compromise their standard. We admire that. They're compassionate. That's another, some people said kind and polite. They love maybe unlovely people. You really admire, when you see someone love someone who's not, you don't think is going to give them much in return, you admire that. Someone that will be helpful to someone who maybe is a little grouchy or a little rude, but yet this person is so kind to them. You admire that. When someone cares for others more than themselves, you admire them. Now, I often wonder, why is it I can have a child with me, and they're such a good child, and they listen, and they do what I say, but soon as the mother comes, they're a holy terror. Why does that happen? Well, one of the main reasons it happens is because they respect my authority, and they do not respect their mother. And the three main reasons they would respect my authority, or if you have had that happen, your authority, is number one, you're honest. Because you mean what you say. When a child is with me, they learn very quickly, I mean what I say. I don't give a suggestion and say, well, okay, it doesn't matter. If I say it, they know that I mean it. They know that I'm strong. They know that I will carry through with whatever I need to carry through with to get them to obey whatever I said, and they know I like them. I spend a lot of time praising children and making them know that I like them. And so I have their respect, and that's the same reason they would like you and respect you. And sometimes as moms, we lose that, or we never gain it. So that's what I want to talk to today. And if you're not a mom or you're a Sunday school teacher, it's the same principles. How do you get a child's respect? If it's your child, if it's a child in a Sunday school class. Number one, be honest. Be honest. Proverbs 12:19 says, the lip of truth shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. Do you know, I want the things that I'm training into children to last forever, to be established forever. So that means I need to be honest. And one of the ways to be honest with children is mean what you say. You must mean what you say. If you give a command, you must decide nothing else will happen in life until that command is obeyed. With our children, someone's back there. With my children, whenever we go into with a small child, I don't do this to my 17-year-old son, but with a small child, whenever we go into a crowd of people, or we're walking down a sidewalk, we're going to go to a street, across the street, I always just put my hand out. If you're from Faith Baptist Church, you've heard this over and over and over again, but some of you start doing it, so I'm going to keep saying it over and over again. I put my hand out, and that child knows that means take my hand. I don't go looking for the child, looking for the hand. I don't, and they're pulling away, and I'm chasing them down for a hand. I just put my hand out. And I have taught them that they need to be always looking for that hand. And that means they take my hand. I don't grab their hand. They take my hand. They are willingly submitting to that command. Now, there have been some times when they've decided, I can do this on my own. Not all of them will do that. Your children will do that. They're children. Foolishness is bound in the heart of the child, and The rod of correction will drive it far from them. So my husband says that the back of these knuckles here were created for a purpose, knocking on doors and telling people about Jesus and popping your child on the knuckles when they don't take your hand. So what he does is if he puts his hand out and they don't take it, he takes the back of his hand and just pops someone to get their attention. It doesn't really hurt them, but it does shake them up that there's some force behind that. Oh, there's something else worse coming if I don't get that hand. But mean what you say. When I'm putting out my hand, I mean what I'm not saying it with my mouth. I'm saying it with my act. I mean it. That means take my hand. I shouldn't even have to say it. But don't put out your hand if you don't care if they take it. Let them go in the street and get ran over if you don't care. But if you put that hand out, they must take that hand. That's being honest. And your child will respect you if you stay consistent with that. Another thing is when we would call our children. I'm talking about little children right now. When we would call our children to come to us, they had to, of their own will, with their own legs, walk to us immediately. We did not call, Josiah, come here. Josiah, come over here. Josiah, come here. I said, come here, you stupid kid. You don't never do what I say. And you drag him. Nobody obeyed anybody, and nobody respects anyone. If you want to be respected, you teach your child, Josiah, come here. If the first time they do not come to you, you go over wherever they are. Now, if you're in public, you cannot do this. So you better practice this a lot at home so you don't have to do this in public. And if it does happen in public, you can go get that. I would go get the child, take them wherever I can spank them, bring them back to that same spot. If I would drop everything. Nothing is more important in my day than my children. Take them to that same spot. If I had to drive home, spank them, and take them back to that same spot, and put them down, go back where I was, and say, Josiah, come here. And we would try it again. But I would not go take that child's hand and bring them to where I wanted them to be. You must mean what you say, and your child will respect you. If we've taught our children from the time before they were a year old to be quiet when we say be quiet. Even when my littlest is 3 right now, and if he falls down, he's a very sensitive child. He's always been that way, more so than any of the others. He cries easier. When he was a baby, from the time he was born to the time he turned 6 months, if he was awake, he was crying. He was one of those colicky babies that cried a lot, but he's just very sensitive to anything. He's the one the tag is bothering me. You know, there's a sticker in here. Every little thing bothers. That's his personality, and he's going to live with that personality the rest of his life. And I'm only going to live with it for about 18 or 19 years, but he has to live with it the rest of it. But anyway, so he cries easier, and so when he gets hurt, he tends to cry a lot. But we've never allowed our children, we let them, well, they're hurt, I hold them, but I don't let them throw a fit. Because I don't think it's right because we are hurting to destroy everyone else's day. And so we always say, shh, you have to cry quiet. Cry quiet. And we'll let them whimper a little bit, and we'll hold them, and then, okay, that's enough, you need to stop. And they stop crying. Our children have always done that. That's teaching them self-control. That's teaching them to be considerate of others. This will go into life far beyond childhood when they're an adult, when they're a husband, when they're a daughter. But we've taught our children when we say be quiet, that means you be quiet. It doesn't matter what has happened, you have to be quiet. But you have to mean what you say and be honest. And the other way you be honest is you live what you teach. You must live what you teach. Proverbs 13:5 says, a righteous man hateth lying. You know, I was talking to a lady that used to attend our church, and they lived one life at home, and then their children heard a different lifestyle taught at church. And that worked okay for a while till they had teenagers. And you know it doesn't work anymore when you have teenagers, because the teenagers see it. And they're not in our church now, and I really believe that was one of the main reasons. But I remember the mother saying to me, well, we just don't get quite as carried away as most people at our church do. Which meant they didn't have very high standards. Everyone else had higher standards than them. And it would really bother her when people had such high standards. She just didn't think you had to be that carried away with your Christianity. And that's what she was talking about. But you need to live what you teach and live what your children are being taught. You need to be honest. You can't hopefully try to make the people at church think you're one kind of a person, and then your children see that their family lives a different type of life. If your child is sitting hearing the preacher preach one thing, but sees mom and dad do something differently at home, you will not have the respect of your child. You need to be honest. Find a church that teaches what you believe. I believe you would have a better chance at turning your children out to respect you and love you by finding a church that believes what you believe than going to a church that does not believe what you believe and having your children be taught two different things. Now, I just think you ought to believe what's right and stay in the right church and do what's right, but it doesn't work. It won't work. They will not respect you. So another thing, ladies, is you need to be honest. If you feel that you want your child's respect, they need to see how you respond to your authorities. And you're living with one, and that's your husband. And if they see that mom works her way around what they know daddy wants, then they won't have respect for you. Because why should they obey you when they know you don't obey your authorities? So be honest. Be honest. And the last thing under being honest is admit it when you make a mistake. We're not perfect. We are going to make mistakes. I have written notes to my children. Many times the mistake I've made is not what I've asked them to do or told them. It was my spirit. I wasn't patient with them. I don't ever back down on what I thought was the right thing, but many times I have to apologize for I was busy, I didn't take time, I didn't explain it the way I should have, and it was partly my fault that they did it wrong. Take blame and admit your mistakes if you must. Proverbs 27 says, "The just man walketh in his integrity, and his children are blessed after him." I want my children to be blessed. So we need to be honest. We need to have integrity. The next thing is be strong. Isaiah 41:10 is a very good verse for mothers or Sunday school teachers or anyone, bus workers. It says, fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee, yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. Have a standard. Have a standard when you're working with children, and be strong to uphold it. First of all, you need to decide, why do you want your children to obey? Do you want your children to obey because it would make life easier for you? Do you want your children to obey so everyone would look at your children and say, oh, they have such a nice family? Or do you want your children to obey because Colossians 3 says, children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing unto the Lord. First of all, we need to decide, why do we need our children to obey? I want my children to obey because I want them to please the Lord. And when my children please the Lord, all those other things will happen. But if I'm just wanting them to obey because it would make life easier for me, I have wrong motives, and I will not have the respect of my child. If I just want them to obey because I want everyone to think, oh, look at the Goddard family. They have such a good family. They must be great parents. I won't have the respect of my children. So I must have the right motive to begin with. So have a standard. What is my standard? My standard is so that my children would please the Lord. That's the standard. That's why I want them to obey. Now, what is obedience? Okay, if you're from Faith Baptist Church, you all know what obedience is. Okay? Do you know? You want to say it, Janet? Okay. Yes, she got all three. Doing exactly what you're told immediately with the right heart attitude. Now, you know, that would be good if we'd apply that to our lives. You know, the Bible says that we are to submit ourselves to our husbands. That probably means you have to obey. You should obey them, right? Does it say obey? It does say obey. And we said obey when we got married, too. We did that vow thing, you know. So obey. Okay, obey, husband. Doing exactly what we're told to do immediately with the right heart attitude. Well, 2 out of 3 is not bad, you know. Think about obedience with your children. I think you ought to say, what is obedience? This is the definition I use for my children. This is my standard that I have for them. I want them to do exactly what I say. I want them to do it immediately. And I want them to have a right spirit when they do it. If those 3 things are not there, I don't feel my children have obeyed. That's my standard. An illustration. When I taught kindergarten, it's amazing how children think they're obeying when they're not. I would say, okay, in kindergarten, I was talking to Linda Lockhart about this. You have to tell them every single thing to do. You can't just say, take out your books and let's get to work. You have to say, okay, find the red book, open the page, put this finger up, and then you go home and you tell your husband that, and he says, I'm not a kindergartner, because you're getting that mode, that thinking. But I would say, okay, point with take your finger, everyone put your finger up, and put this finger, and they'd have a book in front of them. I'm not telling you to, I'm just telling you what I do. And I'd say, now take this finger, put it on the red ball. Okay, so they're putting their finger on the red ball. I would always have a kid doing this stuff. Is that obeying? No. Let me get rid of this. I'm not going anywhere. I might as well just use this one. No. That, to me, is rebellion. I said, remember, obedience is doing exactly? I said, take your finger. Now, I could have just said, that's no big deal. But to me, that stuff is the kind of stuff that really gets to me when I'm in charge, you know. And I don't think it's good for the child. That mental process, that type of spirit in that child is dangerous. If you have a child like that, you need to stop that. You need to have a standard. My standard is, I mean what I say. I'm going to be honest. And I said, take this finger and put it on the red ball. Now, if they take this thumb and put it on the red ball, they have not done exactly what I said to do. The other thing a child would do is, okay, everyone put your fingers up, and there's a child sitting there. You know, or they're getting a pencil, or they're fooling with something, and they're not doing it immediately. They're going to get their finger up, you know, but they're just busy doing something else. But I want them to be with me. I want them right now, and so they have to do it immediately, and they need to do exactly. And then, of course, there's always the spirit. In my home and when I taught school, if I saw a child's face didn't look right, maybe they looked like they were a little angry, or they didn't like what I said, I just say, I think you need to fix your face. Can you smile? You know, and they probably didn't mean that smile at all, but they would smile. Oh, that looks so much better. But in our house, we do a lot of fix your face. I have one child in particular. I won't tell you who it is. You could just guess. This child is probably the most helpful, naturally helpful child to anybody that they're around. But they get so intense about things that they look like they're mad. You know, and they'll be going through the house with this just mad, angry look on their face. And I'll say, is something wrong? No. I say, well, maybe you ought to look a little better than that. Oh. And then they'll change. And I don't really know if they're having a bad spirit, but just in case there's a bad spirit there, we fix it right away because we want our home to be happy. But have a standard. Another thing is doing exactly, if you at home, you say, okay, now I have learned you can't tell a child too many things in a row because they can't remember it all. You know, you get busy, so you got a list. You do this, this, and this. You do this, this, and this. You do this, this, and this. They're going, They can't remember the first thing. So I have been guilty of that, and I've had to rearrange that. But say, for instance, a little older child, and you think they could remember a few things. You say, okay, I want you to take a shower, and then go practice your piano, then do your homework. Okay, I'm going to go to the store, take a shower, practice your piano, do your homework. You got it? Okay, 3 things. They should be able to remember 3 things. So what do? They just said, I think I'll do my homework first. Did they obey? No. Now, if I don't care about the order, I could say, these are 3 things that need to be done. You could do them in whichever order you want, but they need to be finished when I get home. That's different. But if I say, I want you, there are many times the reason I want it to be done in a certain order, because I know that some things take longer than others. They enjoy doing certain things more than others, so I put those things last, because they'll take a long time on them and won't get to the other things. So if I say a certain order, they need to do it in that order. Exactly. Another thing is, let's see what the other illustration is. And I know when I taught school, a lot of times a child would get an answer wrong, and I would say, you need to look up that answer and fix it, because I think that's a good way to learn. Mark something wrong, take it back to him, look it up and fix it. I would have children that would fix it, but they didn't look it up, because I thought, oh, I know. So did they obey? They didn't obey. Exactly. Always be checking out. Are they doing exactly what I've said? Have a standard. If you have a standard, your children will respect you. It should be immediately, not after the next chapter in the book, not after the next TV program, not after they finish the, those little, we don't have this in our house, but these people that sit for hours in front of this, and these little men are doing things like this, those Nintendo games or whatever. Not after the Nintendo game. I mean, those never end. You can't, you go on and on and on, and you're on the 154th level. I'm going to kill the dragon or whatever it is. And then, of course, with the right heart attitude. No stomping. No faces. Just simply a yes, ma'am will do. No excuses. I have a letter here from one of my children. I won't tell you who it is. But I had to get on to them for something. And I got this letter, and it says, I just want to say thank you for being a wonderful mom. You are so patient with me. I don't deserve it. I do care what you say. I love you so much, and I hate myself every time that I make your day a little harder because of the dumb things I've done. I love you and always think of you, though I don't show it as I ought to. Thank you. You're the best. And then it's signed by a child. I think I might have gotten the respect of this child. But I have a standard, and I try to be honest. Are my children perfect? No. Am I perfect? No. I bet you didn't know that, did you? But I think there's one thing that we have so far. Our children aren't grown, they're not gone, and I feel that we have the respect of our children. Have a punishment for violation of your standard. It won't do any good to have a standard if you don't do anything about it. There's no such thing as a small disobedience. There's no excuse for disobedience. Because a child is hungry doesn't mean it's okay for them to be a brat. I'm amazed at parents that say, this child is just being a holy terror. Oh, he's hungry. He ate. We need to go get him some lunch. Good grief. Oh, he's tired. Now, I do believe you as a parent should not drag your child all over, not feed him, and not get him their proper naps. A schedule will do a lot for your discipline. But there's still never an excuse. And you need to realize if your child, if you're pushing them too far, you're dragging them all over Walmart when you ought to be home during their nap time, you need to realize that you need to get them home and get them on schedule. But there's never an excuse for being bad. I think he must be coming. Some people's kids are always coming down with something. I think he must be coming down with something. But correct punishment. The correct punishment will equal a child believing that you're right. If you do it right, they will always believe that you're right. Proverbs 22:15, foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. Proverbs 23:13, withhold not correction from the child, for if thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die. Now some of you are going, she used that word, that beat word. That's because you watch too much TV. The Bible says it's okay to spank your children. Don't let anyone. The Bible, God knows how to raise children more than the news does, more than Oprah Winfrey, what's her name? That lady. More than any talk show host knows how to raise children. If you do this right, you don't abuse your child because they don't make you angry. Because you are honest, you mean what you say, you don't let it go on and on and on. You take care of it right now. You have a standard. The standard's always the same. And you discipline your children because they need discipline, not because they've inconvenienced you, not because you're angry with them. And you do it because it's what needs to be done. When you get older, I was 39 when I had Josiah. You were 41 with Joy. When you get older, the first kid we could just beat to death, and it didn't bother us at all. I mean, this kid was going to be perfect, That's your first one. But then that Josiah came. I don't know if I'm more closer to grandmother than I am mother because of my age. Linda Woolley is younger than me, and she has a granddaughter the same age as my son. But it is harder for me to discipline him. He just seems like such a baby, He's just so cute. Yeah. And it is much more difficult for me. I never could understand women that would say, it's so hard for me to spank them. I'd think, what is the problem with you? Just get in there and spank that kid, It was never a problem for me to spank a child who needed a spanking. But it is hard. Is it harder for you? Well, Greta, yours are all right, so it's not as hard for you, but is it hard for you? No, she says no. But it is. I had that 8-year space, too, between my youngest daughter and then Josiah. So it has been very difficult for me. And I have had to just do it because it's the right thing to do. Many times there is no feeling of anything in there. I just go to the bedroom, okay, let's get the spanking over, and I'm feeling terrible the whole time. But I haven't ruined him yet, so he seems all right so far. But you know what? If you don't act like you believe what you say, they're not going to believe you either. You've got to decide you believe what you say. Have a standard. And never allow them to talk back. Be strong. Never allow them to... if they argue with you, they're going to talk you out of it. Kids are smart. Don't let them say anything. Especially if you're not real decisive yourself. Once you've made a decision, don't let them say anything. They will get you to start doubting. They need to just not talk back. Later, if they need to say something about it, wait till after it's over, and always give them the chance to come talk to you. But usually later they won't come either. Don't let them give excuses. Yes, but. We never allowed that word. That but, it was yes, ma'am. I'm yes, ma'am. I'm not yes, but. So we never allowed that response. It was yes, ma'am. Don't let them blame others for their faults. What time is my watch? Oh, okay. And be consistent. The next one is be compassionate. Be compassionate. We talked about that's one of the things that cause us to... Jude 1:22 says that of some having compassion making a difference. Spend time rewarding their good behavior. Your children need to hear you talk about how great they are, how wonderful they are. Praise them. Write them notes. Mrs. Cowling talked about putting notes in their lunches. Plan fun times and do what they like. Now, see, I have a big span right now. I have a 17-year-old and a son, 14-year-old daughter, 11-year-old daughter, and 3-year-old son. So there's a lot of different things that I have to think about on these. My little one is easy. Little ones are easy to find time to spend with him. As they get older, it gets a little bit harder. Josiah, I could read a book to him. We could play Cowboys and Indians. We could do a lot of things together at home with Josiah. Now, Esther, one of the things we've been doing is we've been doing embroidery. She's trying to get her last badge for blue denim and lace, and she has this embroidery work that she's working on. And so her and I have been doing that together. Teenage girls like to shop. Just take them and buy them. Go shopping. If you don't have any money, just go find out what you might buy someday if you ever get money. And so Hannah's easy. And then I know my son, he has discovered Starbucks. And he likes those. He doesn't like the hot drinks, but he likes the Frappuccinos. And if I want to get in good with him, I'll just say, Josh, come on. And we'll go get in the car and we'll go down and get a Frappuccino because I like them too, so that's easy. Another thing that he likes to do is he likes to cook. He likes to bake sometimes. And I know one time his grandma's down here, and she was there, and she was going to make cinnamon rolls. And I have a bread machine, so you make the dough and mix it. And one day, after she had left, I called home, and I was asking him, cell phones are wonderful, aren't they? Yeah, no matter where you are, you can keep checking up on them. And they could get to you. They need you. And I asked him, what's Hannah answered. I said, what's Esther doing? What's Josiah doing? What's Josh doing? Oh, he's making cinnamon rolls. I said, he's what? Yeah, he's making cinnamon rolls. He'd put the stuff in the bread machine, and it was going. And so when I got home, he was seeing if he could, the biggest cinnamon roll he could make. He's like me. If a little butter's good, a lot of butter's better. And if a little brown sugar's good, a lot of brown sugar's better. And he was going to make the best, biggest cinnamon roll. And so sometimes with a teenage boy, you just either bake for them or let them bake some. He just wanted to bake because he wanted to eat it. He didn't really want to bake it, but there was no one else that cared about baking it for him right there. So he didn't realize how long it took to make cinnamon rolls. Probably by the time they were done, he didn't even want them anymore. It wasn't one of those instant go get it and eat it things. Don't sympathize with their sin. Let's see. I got to finish here. Once you break their will, I said have a standard, have a punishment. You need to show them your love. If it's a small child, you need to hold them, and you need to hug them, and to be very close to them. Usually the discipline times in our home are the closest. It kind of just puts everything back in perspective, makes everybody love each other again. All the attitudes are gone. Everything is sweet once it's all over with. An older child sometimes needs a note of reassurance, maybe a quick hug, kind words, maybe a word, a letter that's saying, I'm very proud of you. I'm sorry, that this had to happen, but we want the best for you. But make sure the rules are not for your convenience. I've said that before. I want to read you a quick thing, then I better close. Let's see. It says, one Sunday I was entertained in the farm home of a member of a rural New York church. I was impressed by the intelligence and unusually good behavior of the only child in the home, a 4-year-old boy. Then I discovered one reason for the child's charm. The mother was at the kitchen sink washing the intricate parts of the cream separator when the little one came to her with a magazine. Mother, he asked, what is this man in this picture doing? To my surprise, she dried her hands. She sat down in a chair, and taking the boy in her lap, she spent 10 minutes answering his questions. After the child had left, I commented on her having interrupted her chores to answer the boy's questions. Most mothers wouldn't have bothered, I said. I expect to be washing cream separators for the rest of my life, she told me, but never again will my son ask me that question. We need to have compassion. Ladies, don't get so busy making money outside the home, running all over some of you that don't have to work outside the home are still running all over the place. And you are leaving your home unattended to, and you do not have time to train your children. And your children do not respect you. Be honest. Be strong. Be compassionate. And get the respect of your child so that you could train them to be what God wants them to be. Let's pray.